first date. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved. And this will take some time and some discussions. And that's why we're here, to have those discussions. And that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
Of course, this didn't go over well with her co-hosts, the type to offer riveting analysis on foreign policy like such.
And he's also talking about, he doesn't like Trump talking about expanding. The United States has always expanded, either by force or we buy things. We bought Alaska from the Russians. We bought half the country from the French. We beat the Mexicans, the Native Americans, the Spanish, the British. That's how we do things here. It's manifest destiny. And if we find out that we need Greenland as a matter of national survival, of course, any president, Republican or Democrat, should get it by any means necessary. And it looks like right now we have our intelligence agencies in Greenland on the ground right now, ensuring that they vote for independence.
That's right.
But of course, what Tarlov was saying is backed by economists across the country, as well as port directors like Gene Soroka, who said on Fox that shipments from China to the west coast of the US are set to plummet this week as the impact of Trump's tariffs leads companies to cut their import orders.
You're really expecting a third of the traffic to drop off next week?
Good morning, Becky. And yes, that's right. According to our own Port Optimizer, which measures the loadings in Asia, will be down just a little bit over 35% next week compared to last year. And it's a precipitous drop in volume, with a number of major American retailers stopping all shipments from China based on the tariffs.
Yeah, the China piece of that is the most interesting. That's where the shipments are basically ground to a halt, you've said?
Yes, that's correct. And that makes up about 45% of our business here in Los Angeles, Becky. Now, what we have heard in talking directly to CEOs and senior executives of the shipping lines is they'll try to add a couple of port calls in along the Southeast Asia routes where cargo is still moving, albeit at a 10% tariff. But realistically speaking, until some accord or framework can be reached with China, the volume coming out of there, save a couple of different commodities, will be very light at best.
I was looking at the numbers, and for the first 3 months, you all handled about 2.5 million import containers. That's up 14% year over year. So how much of that was retailers and others trying to really bring forward as much as they possibly could ahead of these tariffs?
A great majority of that volume was advancing inventory, and that started last summertime. Even during the campaign trail, when folks started talking about tariffs and trade policies, some larger retailers across a variety of sectors and manufacturing folks who were bringing in parts and components started to advance that inventory. So we had about 9 months of a run up here. And then this last burst in March really took us to the end of what we call that inventory look. And now precipitous drop overall. And realistically, what we're going to see next is that retailers have about 5 to 7 weeks of full inventories left, and then the choices will lessen.
Something that has spooked consumers across the country with their concerns anything but eased by the likes of Scott Bessent, who gets on air and offers some information like this.
The other thing, too, is this reporter behind me was quite snarky the other day when President Trump talked about the girl having two dolls.
Said this week, got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls. Yeah. And maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying
they don't need
Americans
$30.
could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
And he said, well, what? President didn't take the question, but he said, what would you tell that girl? I said, I would tell that young girl that you will have a better life than your parents, that you and your family, thanks to President Trump, can now be confident again that you will have a better life than your parents, which working class Americans had abandoned that idea. Your family will own a home. You will be able to advance. You will have a good education. You will have economic freedom. That's what we are advancing.
And the thing is, this is arguably more alarming than the threat of empty ports and shelves. The sheer lack of clarity or direction coming from the White House is baffling. I mean, who is actually in charge here? Trump literally just admitted today at a press conference that he wasn't even aware of the ongoing attacks happening between India and Pakistan.
Any questions for Steve?
Any reaction to the attacks between India and Pakistan?
No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. You know, they've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly.
I mean, can you imagine if Biden had said this during his term? It's so evident that they're in over their head. And as a result, even the once trusted voices on Fox outside of the Jessica Tarlovs are turning.
That's great. But you use the word admission, like if you want admission to this market. I might say that the reason the market is down is because they look at admission in a different way. What happened to the 200 deals that Donald Trump talked about last week that, quote, we have already had and gotten done? Or, you know, there are 200 deals, et cetera. I think this might be perceived by the market as an admission that they don't have a deal yet with any country, let alone Canada or India, because we were hearing so many rumors about India, right, Dagan? I mean, this was last week. And Scott Bessent said yesterday we would be very close to a deal that we will announce sometime, possibly this week. Where are these deals? And now suddenly we don't have to make a deal.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.